sometimes you start talking about the deeper conversation and someone will push back on you. Um, and I'll be like, okay, let's not get deep. Let's keep it really surfacey. Do you ever use porn for boredom? Oh, yeah, all the time. Well, why can't you just be bored? Like, again, just be bored.
Hmm.
Why do you have to use porn to escape boredom?
True
But
question.
I'm not asking you to tell me a story like Mac about dad, drunk on the couch, or something else bad from your childhood. I'm just saying, why can't you be bored for 10 minutes without doing this? Isn't there, doesn't that make you think that there's something there that you're escaping, avoiding, that's maybe problematic?
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know?
sure. I'm sure that and does that typically that question does that normally open up some dialogue?
Yeah, it usually there's always some part of denial where people are excusing how dependent they are on their phone or how dependent they are on these little behaviors, these rituals. And it's like, you keep escaping every time you have 10 minutes free, you end up escaping your life. You're not really living your life. You're on the sidelines. And I get really tired with some of those conversations. I'm getting kind of tired with the whole thing right now.
I know
If
I
I hear,
listened to your last podcast.
I was telling Jason George, another friend of mine, we were just trading emails about this today or texts. And I said, if I hear another grown man talking about struggling with Instagram or TikTok, I'm like, come
Yeah.
on, enough already. Like I don't see, I'm not telling you have to be on it or off it but I don't get why that's even still a part of your world anymore if it's causing you so much anguish that you're bringing it up with me, you know? I'm a paid coach. I work usually with a fee and
Right.
it's not cheap for a lot of people. Like they have to like think about it. Do I really want to do this? Do I want to work with Matt? And then they'll bring like TikTok to me. And it's like, do we want to spend this time talking about TikTok?
Right.
Like, think about it. Like the
Well,
meter's running here. Do you want to? Do you want to? Do you want any more growth in your life than this stupid app that is a time waster?
that's such a great point.
That sounds like maybe callous, but it is funny. I'm like, I can't believe I'm talking about this.
Yeah. Well, no, I think it makes sense though from your perspective is you really want to help people and I think at least for me, thinking about me and other people I know that I've worked with and uh it typically is something a little bit deeper than just social media or I often find that it's almost like it's a projection of it's and I can when I get kind of ticked off is when people start blaming like women for how they dress or I'm like okay like you don't need to be staring at them like a dog like and I think it was an episode maybe with Craig Parra if I'm not mistaken where he was talking about going to like Burning Man or something like that. Was it Craig Parra? Do you remember that?
He went to Coachella, and we
Coachella,
talked
that's
about
what it
that.
was.
A
Yeah,
concert, yeah.
and I think the theme of that, right, is like you still like most of us, right? Like 99% of us still have to use the internet, still have to go on the internet or still have to interact with people. And I think sometimes people focus so much on avoiding things. Like I gotta avoid that. I can't go on the internet anymore, or I have to get a flip phone, or I can't go to the gym anymore because there's women that dress a certain way. And like your book, which I love what you have here, becoming the type of man who does not look at porn. I think that's the important thing, right? Is like becoming the type of man that if you go to the gym, you're there to work out. If you're walking the streets or in the supermarket, you're there to do something. You're not there to be scoping out chicks or to be getting those hits like you're saying.
Yeah. So
you know?
Craig Para, this other coach, he went to Coachella with his daughter and he wanted to connect with his daughter and he had a great time with her. And that was the whole reason he was there. And we talked about that and he was reminding himself of the purpose that he was there. And he was actually being very present. And even though there were things there that were challenging, and he kept reminding himself of his why and his purpose. And I thought we did an excellent job sharing about that. And sure enough, I get criticism from a dude like the day after it releases, like, I can't believe you talked about that. And, you're causing guys to stumble and, this and that. I'm like, dude, you're making the exact argument why we presented it. And I don't go out of my way in my podcast to trigger people. Like
Sure.
I don't even know if we talked about one of the artists that he saw, because I think I try to avoid using female names. I try to avoid things that would create obsessive thinking.
Yeah, same.
But yet, dude, you're making my point. I told the guys at our Rev groups once. I said, listen, if you get triggered here, guess what? You're in the best place possible to be triggered. This is a place where you can honestly talk about what's coming up for you. You can clean it up. If someone triggered you because they said something inappropriate or something that kind of triggered you, well, you can bring it up. You can maybe make an agreement or make a request, or you can just own it and ask for support. Like, the goal in life is to never be triggered. The goal is how do you manage in healthy ways what comes up for you?
Mm. Yeah, and how to spot it. I think it might have been one of your early episodes too. I've mentioned this in my podcast, but when I was on that mountain retreat, listened to all your episodes, I found myself with a journal writing down all the things that triggered me. And I remember I wrote down women in white cars. And I thought that was such a funny, I was like, okay, write it down, write it down. And I just bring that up because it might sound silly, right? But in a way, it's helpful to just break that seal of just being honest and being vulnerable with yourself. And then being able to have that open door to a group or to your coach or to an accountability partner to where you can say, I mean, I think as you go into recovery, you start to, it's almost like the smaller things you can start to mention and you can catch them early and say, hey, like that thing that I saw at B place, hey, that triggered me, but this is what I'm doing about it. Like, this is the actions that I'm taking. And I do that daily. I check in with my brother. We do fast check-ins every day with voice memos. And I find like that's so helpful for me because I can just voice out whatever's on my mind. And oftentimes, like you're talking about, I mean,
What's
that's
your
one of the
brother's
biggest
name, by
things.
the way? You keep mentioning him.
Noah.
Noah. Well, shout out to Noah.
Yeah, he's been a big fan, man. I think we've been I think I was going through it in my recovery and then we became recovery accountability partners February 2023 on Valentine's Day is when we decided to do daily check-ins. And we talk about your podcast, we talk about Vern's podcast we listen to a lot. It's good stuff. It helps us, I think, gives us perspectives that we can talk about, right? Ideas, things that can challenge us to, be better and do better. But no, I think but I think that's it's such an interesting thing because I think when I brought up that Coachella episode, that really stuck with me just because to me that made a lot of sense, right? Is you still have to be a person of the world. You can't just live in a hole. And I think you said this on an episode too, if I'm not mistaken, but kind of like, what do you want to be on your gravestone? Is it like, Matt, or it was like Mac, like avoided porn or something like that for his whole life or whatever, and that's it. Like, hey, I avoided it. I did it. I avoided porn my whole life.
I don't think that was me who said that. It sounds like a
Okay.
Vern. It
It
sounds
might
like
have been
Vern.
Vern. It might have been Vern, but that stuck with me because I think like what you
I
talked
like that though.
Yeah.
Matt, he avoided porn from 2011 to 20,
It's like a checkbox. uh, but you know,
Matt, he never had a TikTok account.
yeah, Mac, he never went on to OnlyFans. Like, great job, dude. Uh, but I think that's the framing sometimes in people's minds. It seems like when
Matt, he only used Grubhub and not other sites.
yeah, be like Mac, like he peaked a little bit during that scene, but he mainly looked away right at the nick of time.
Perfect. Perfect.
Um, but yeah, like your latest podcast, and I definitely recommend everybody
I
to,
keep thinking of jokes.
No, we can keep going if you want.
Wait, what's that show? Matt, he only watched the clean episodes of Game of Thrones.
Yeah. Oh, I was just thinking about that.
I haven't watched any episodes, but you know.
It is that is interesting though, because like when I watch I don't really watch that much TV. Like literally the only shows I watch are with my girlfriend, and we watch King of the Hill and we watch 24. And that's not because like I'm trying to,
Bobby.
yeah,
That's all.
Bobby.
That's my King of the Hill. Bobby.
They had such a great episode. You should check it out. I don't know if you remember this. There's an episode they do on cigarettes. I really want to do either write about it or do a podcast about it, but it's such a good episode about addiction because Bobby, him and his friend, they find like a cigarette in a dumpster, and then they smoke it like in some closet, and then Hank discovers them, and unbeknownst to everybody, like Hank and Peggy used to smoke cigarettes like when they were dating, so I have all these memories of them being young and smoking cigarettes. And Hank basically, to get Bobby to quit smoking cigarettes, he's like, you have to smoke like 10 cartons, just to get him sick. And then Hank's like watching him smoke, and he's like, hey, you're not holding it right. You're holding it like a French man. This is how you hold a cigarette. And there's a part where he like holds it, and he's like, looks at it, and he's like, oh gosh, puts it down. And I won't spoil the episode, but it just gets progressively worse. But it's such a good episode. The more I watch King of the Hill, they do such a good job of like kind of like hard to talk about, like addiction or different things, and they just do such a masterful job of like making it funny, comical, relatable, that kind of thing. Man, that was a good laugh.
Yeah, my dad found a can of Copenhagen in my stuff, and he goes, well, this is probably like sixth grade. He's like, well, show me how you dip it. And I took the smallest pinch possible. It was like a little tiny, like less than a pea size of Copenhagen, put it under my lip, and he goes, that's not a dip. And he smacks the thing on his leg.
Oh boy.
And does that thing where he cuts, I don't know if this got to Colorado, but he cuts it with the top and gets this plug, and then he puts it in under the lip, and it burned.
Ugh.
And it just immediately, I feel all the nicotine, and it was just awful. that was the end of me.
Yeah.
That was the end of me dipping.
He gave you the Hank Hill treatment there.
Yeah. All right, I'm getting us off track.
No. It's great. I mean, that's what I love whenever I have guests on, is just to talk and give different perspectives on things. And but I think that is maybe just to bring that point back is I think it's a perspective thing. It's in your.
I don't think that would work
mind.
with porn. Right? If I
No.
caught
Yeah,
my
well,
kid
yeah.
looking at porn, and then I said, "Oh, here's what you need to do:
Look at
watch
more."
it for 6 hours." No, I don't think that would work.
Well, that's interesting because okay, real quick, this will loop into it, but something my brother and I talked about. He's an addiction therapist, and he got into it. And one thing that he mentioned on our episode, which I've heard mentioned multiple times, I don't know if you've heard this before, but what makes porn such a different thing than substances, like alcohol or drugs, is it's not gonna like put you in a body bag. Like if you sat your son down and said, hey, you're just going to keep drink. I'm going to have you drink until you're sick. Like that could put your son in the hospital, right? Or something else. But with porn, like you just hit the nail on the head. I think what makes porn tougher in some ways and different is you're not going to like OD. You can't like OD on porn, right? Like you can, it'll affect probably your sleep. Like if you, for me, I would just stay up all night, looking at it, or you might feel kind of sick or you just feel drained. But it's not like you're just going to put you like in a body bag, but it affects you in such a different way to where you start looking at women differently. You start interacting with people differently. It affects your relationship as a Christian, at least for me, like with God. Like it distances you from God. So maybe we could touch on that a bit because I think you open the door for that. Is I think that's what makes porn so sneaky. Is it's not going to do the same things as other things.
I
Like
have a theory, and maybe Noah would agree with this, but I have a theory that of all the addictions out there, gambling, I'm thinking of behavioral addictions and substance, right?
yep.
Drinking, drugs, that porn is one of the only ones I know of that has such a high relational component,
Mm,
right? Like there's something relational about it, meaning I want a sense of affirmation, I want to feel important, I want to feel loved or worshiped, or I want to worship someone. There's like this weird exchange that some seems like it's in a relational need that kicks in with porn. It could just be the biological part, right? The orgasm and wanting to procreate. Maybe it's just how we're wired that ties that in. But I think that's one thing that's unique about it. Because when I hear guys use porn, talk about why they use porn, I hear things like, I don't feel good enough, or I want to feel desired, or I want this. And it feels like a relational need that's getting expressed. Where sometimes when I hear people talk about alcohol, they're like, well, I feel anxious. And so I use alcohol, or I don't feel good in a social situation. So I use alcohol to compensate, or,
right.
and maybe it is right. Or like gambling, there's like this rush and I love the feeling of winning or whatever. But I think porn's the one that I hear there's this relational thing. Um, so that's the one thing I think, and I think everyone thinks they're unique. Everyone thinks their addiction is the unique one. So I'm
Right.
sure there's other ways of looking at other addictions that are unique to those things. But when I think about why porn was so challenging to me, because it's so tapped into that unlovable piece with me, and it's so tapped into wanting to be seen and cared for and nurtured and understood. All those things, um, kind of went hand in hand with porn. Whereas, I'll give you an example. I don't have any interest in gaming. I've
Mm,
never had an interest in gaming. Some people say, oh, gaming and porn are just alike. Well, not to me.
right.
Whatever gaming gives you, it doesn't give me what I want, what I am looking for. It's not that I can't be addicted to a game. I remember, playing Halo once, and
Oh, great game.
and I love Tony Hawk in the old days.
Mm.
But I actually bought an Xbox, believe it or not, in that period after the demonic whatever, as a way to have something to do that was kind of fun and safe.
Ah, okay.
Because back then, Xbox, you couldn't get online with them. Interestingly enough, though, just to show you the addiction piece, I I bought a modded chip from Thailand and soldered it to my Xbox, and I was able to get porn on my Xbox, original Xbox.
Oh,
So
wow.
it's like, how like in Jurassic Park the dinosaurs find a way. I always could find a way. So that safe Xbox that I had, I figured out how to make it unsafe. So again, I wasn't gaming was not like, I wasn't trying to mod my Xbox to get free games.
Right.
I think deep down it was like I liked the idea of this thing, and so it's such a deeper pull for me, probably because of the relational piece.
Yeah, and I think too it's just so accessible, right? It's free. You can be anonymous. Because I think like in order to get a drink, right, you got to go somewhere to get a drink. Like you got to physically go and like buy some alcohol.
Well, again, I know this is the millennial podcast, but it wasn't free when I got
Right.
addicted. I had to
Sure.
buy it. I had to go buy it, acquire it, steal it, rent it, and that did add a level of obstacle. And I used to say sometimes I stayed porn free because I didn't have money,
Mm,
or I stayed porn free because I had thrown away my stash and I didn't have anything. And so just that at some point craving passes. If you don't engage craving, it goes away. So there were many days that I would go a week or two without porn because I literally didn't have porn.
right.
It wasn't quite that I had built a lot of tools or had a lot of um had a lot of growth. It was more the absence of it. But you're right. Nowadays, if you don't have a plan for
Yeah,
your smartphone will serve up porn whenever you want it. So
totally.
so when I talk to a guy and I'm like, "What's your plan for your smartphone?" I'm not telling you how to live your life or what you need. I'm just saying if you have determined that you have uh problematic porn use in your and you want to change it and you don't have a plan for your phone, it's a non-starter.
Yeah, I remember when I was working with Vern, when it was actually when Noah became my accountability partner. It was leading up to my divorce being finalized, and I was just sliding around for it was about a month or two when I separated from my ex, and I just remember Vern telling me, he's like, "Hey Mac, like you got to make it easier on yourself, and you need to download some kind of accountability software." And the interesting thing about it was, I think it was accountable to you is what I downloaded, and it sends like texts and emails to somebody, whoever your accountability partner is, if you're looking at triggering content, and that in turn, which is really interesting, right? In order to get accountability software, like you need to have an accountability partner, right? So then that brought in my little brother into the mix where he downloaded it too. So it wasn't just that I got software on my phone, but I also got a partner, somebody that I could talk to. And then we incorporated the fast check-in model in our check-ins. And oh my gosh, it made such a big difference. It was like the minute I downloaded that software, it was like I just felt like I could breathe again. Because it just took like that tension, or it added a natural obstacle, a natural friction to my craving to look at porn, because I knew if I looked at it, then he's going to be getting an alert right away. And he's my little brother. Like I want to be that big brother for him, someone that, a man ahead of him that he can look up to, right? But that's such a great point, though. If you don't have a plan in today's age, I mean, gosh, you're done. I mean, not done, but like you're gonna jump right back into it.
Yeah, I think some guys fall into this trap of, well, I tried to do something to change my relationship with porn, and well, I got disappointed or I went back to it and kind of abandoning it. It's like, well, I think in the absence of a plan and absence of doing anything intention, it will be the thing you go back to. It's not that you're hopeless to change. It's
Sure.
that you kind of have a default, and if you want to do something different, you have to actively change
Right.
and grow. And if you're not willing to do any of that, it's gonna be one of those things, right? If it was just your intentions, you know, I mean, this is the difference between an addiction or problematic use of something. If it was capable for you to change your relationship with it without doing anything, just making an intention, you would do it. you could do it. Like none of like have you ever been a compulsive gambler?
I had a, not, I wouldn't say super compulsive, but there was a time I think on when I had DraftKings on my phone
Okay.
to
Well,
where I would
all
just
right,
be
bad
betting on
example. Bad
games.
example. Do you have you ever been a smoker?
No.
Okay. So, Mac, what did you do to quit smoking?
Just
Right? You
never
just said
started.
I don't want to smoke.
Yeah.
No, you just it's like I don't smoke,
All right,
right?
right, right.
The people who don't have a problematic use of something or a behavioral addiction, that's the what they do. That's the extent of it. They just make a choice. But once you are in something and you're having trouble letting go of it and it's you're going back to it, then the only way you're going to let go of it is by actually doing some work to actively change the ritual, actively change the beliefs that are allowing it, and even the access or the environment, like influencing like how you are what your environment looks like. Um, I think it would be hard to get sober from alcohol with a beer full of fridge or a fridge full of beer.
Right.
Um, I think it would be hard to quit porn if your phone just had all your links saved, and at any moment that you felt any sort of negative feeling, whether it was boredom or whether it was rejection, you could just click on something. It's going to be a pain. There's never going to be any progress made.